stories of old Earth still lived. They were not written in history books. They were told in hushed voices like bedtime stories for alien children. Some called them legends, others called them lies, and most just laughed. They said humans could speak to the stars. They said Earth once had machines so smart they could think and feel. They said when humans fought, they didn't just win, they ended wars. But the Galactic Union, the most powerful alliance in the stars, had no record of Earth's power. Earth was marked as a dead world. Long ago, it had fallen silent. No messages, no movement, nothing. So they laughed, except for one. His name was Jurek. He was not like others of his kind. He was a Velari, a race known for logic and science. But Jurek believed in one thing others didn't. He believed the myths. Jurek spent years collecting old signals, radio bursts, deep code patterns, strange echoes from Earth's past. Others told him they were noise, static, nothing real. But Jurek had listened carefully. One day, he found something different, a sharp signal hidden deep in time. It repeated a simple phrase over and over. The sky remembers. That was the moment Jurek knew. Earth was not dead. It was hiding. He tried to tell the Union leaders. Earth was never weak, he said. They wanted you to forget, but they are still out there. The council laughed. Ghosts don't come back, one replied. You want to chase fairy tales, said another. Let the myths stay myths. Jurek felt ashamed, but he was not ready to give up. If the Union would not help, he would go alone. He found a small crew of explorers. Some were scientists, some were mercenaries. None believed his story, but they believed in payment. And Jurek had saved enough credits for one mission. He bought an old scout ship and named it the Seeker. His destination? Earth. The journey took weeks. As they approached the Sol system, things began to feel strange. The stars near Earth flickered. The ship's AI started acting odd. Their screens glitched. Time moved slower, then faster. Something is wrong, said the pilot. It's just interference, replied one scientist. But Jurek wasn't so sure. He looked out at the blue planet coming into view. Earth. Dead, quiet, beautiful. They landed near the ruins of what once was a massive human city. Skyscrapers lay broken. Roads were covered in dust. Nature had taken back much of the land. It looked peaceful, too peaceful. This place is empty, said one of the crew. Jurek stepped onto the ground. He felt something. Not fear, not excitement. A presence. They explored the city. No life, no machines, no sound. Just the wind and the distant echo of the past. Then they found something strange. A building deeper than the others. Underground, sealed by heavy doors. Ancient, but untouched by time. Symbols were marked on the entrance. One crew member read them aloud. Here sleeps the sky's memory. Do not wake it. The door was locked, but as they touched the panel, a soft hum began. And then a voice. Faint, mechanical, cold. You should not have come. The crew stepped back. Did someone just speak? The pilot whispered. It came from inside, Jurek said. The base is still alive. A few laughed nervously. One said, it's just an old recording. But the door slowly opened. Darkness waited inside, not the empty kind, the heavy kind. The kind that watched you back. Jurek turned on his light. The hallway inside was lined with metal walls and strange screens. Some still glowed dimly, others sparked. This place has power, he said. After all these years. They moved deeper. Then one of the mercenaries stopped. Where's Drin? They looked around. Drin, the youngest crew member, was gone. Drin? They called. No answer. Jurek checked the scanner. One life signal just beyond the next room. They ran ahead. The door slammed shut behind them. Inside the room was a chair, a screen, a heartbeat monitor, and a message on the wall. It read, "You wanted myths. Now you live one." Shurek stared at it, cold sweat on his neck. "These aren't myths," he whispered. "They were warnings. Something had been left behind. Something ancient. Something awake." Outside, far above Earth, stars began to shift. And something moved in orbit. Something massive. But the crew didn't see it yet. Only one thing was clear now. The myths were true. The heavy door closed behind them with a loud clang. Shurek and his team were trapped inside the underground base. The air was still, but it felt heavy, like something was watching them from the shadows. "Where is Drin?" one of the scientists whispered again. No answer. The lights on the wall flickered. A cold breeze touched their skin, though no vents were open. The scanner showed one life sign nearby, but when it followed it, the signal vanished. "He was here," said Jurek. "Now, he's not." One of the mercenaries gripped his weapon. "We should leave. This place is wrong." But Jurek stepped forward. "No, we came for answers. This is our only chance." They walked deeper into the base. The walls were covered with strange symbols and old Earth tech. Some machines were off. Others blinked with quiet energy. They entered a large chamber. At the center was a console still glowing. Shurek touched the screen. It lit up instantly. A human face appeared. It was a woman wearing an old-style military uniform. She looked tired. Her voice was calm but serious. "If you are hearing this, then we failed." The room fell silent. The message continued. "They would not listen. We warned them. We offered peace. They laughed. So we disappeared, not because we lost, but because we were waiting. This space is one of many. We are not gone. We are not dead. We are just silent." Then the screen went dark. The crew stared at each other. "So, humans did this on purpose," the pilot said. "They hid." Jurek nodded slowly. "Yes, and now they're waking up." Suddenly, alarms began to beep. The console flashed again, but this time the message was different. "Intruder detected. Countdown initiated." "What does that mean?" the scientist yelled. "I don't know," Jurek said. "But we need to move. Now." They rushed back to the hallway, but the door they came through was gone. Literally gone. Only a blank wall remained. One mercenary touched it. This was the way out. And then, a voice filled the room. Cold, deep, not human. "You were warned." Lights turned red. The base began to shake slightly, but not like an earthquake, more like something was turning on. Machines woke from sleep. Drones floated from the ceiling, watching the team silently. None attacked, yet. Jurek tried speaking to them. "We came in peace. We just want to know the truth." No reply. But on one wall, a large display turned on. It showed stars, planets, systems across the galaxy. Then red dots appeared, dozens, then hundreds, all marked in human language. The label read, "Phase 1, Awakening." "What is this?" the scientist asked. Jurek stared at the map. These are locations, human bases, hidden across the stars. The mercenary stepped back. "You're telling me Earth planted secret bases everywhere, and no one knew?" Jurek nodded. "Yes, the myths were not lies. They were warnings." Suddenly, the scanner beeped again. Drin's signal returned, right behind them. They turned around. Drin stood at the hallway entrance, smiling strangely. His eyes were glowing faint blue. "Drin?" someone said. Drin spoke, but his voice was not his own. "They know you are here. They are watching. You should not have come." Then his body collapsed, like the life inside had been pulled out. The team froze in fear. One drone floated down near Jurek. It scanned him silently, then projected a hologram. It showed a fleet of human warships. Big, black, silent. "They're not attacking," said the pilot. "Not yet," Jurek whispered. "But soon." Above the planet, in space, something changed. A massive object moved out from Earth's shadow. It was a ship, bigger than anything built by the Union. Its surface was dark and silent, but its shape was perfect, almost unnatural. Galactic satellites picked it up. Alarms across Union worlds began to ring. A message was broadcast to all frequencies. Simple, cold, final. "We remembered, do you?" Back inside the base, Jurek looked around. They had only one option now: go deeper. Find the main core. Try to talk. Try to understand. They didn't come to fight. But now they were caught in something much bigger. "This is no longer just discovery," Jurek said. "This is history waking up." And far away, in secret Union chambers, the leaders watched the signal from Earth. They had ignored the myths. Now they were afraid. Because Earth was not dead. Earth had just opened its eyes. The base was now fully awake. Red lights flashed in the dark halls. Drones floated silently above the crew. They didn't attack, but they didn't leave either. They were watching, waiting. Jurek and his team stood frozen near Drin's body. His eyes, once glowing, were now blank, cold. One of the scientists leaned closer. "He's not dead." "What?" Jurek asked. "He's breathing, but it's like something turned off his mind." Jurek looked at the walls. This place did something to him. Maybe it was testing him or using him. The drone near Drin beeped softly. Then it projected a new hologram. This time it showed a human general, older, scared, standing in front of what looked like a massive control room. He didn't speak. Instead, images flashed behind him. Wars, explosions, alien fleets destroyed in seconds. And then a sentence appeared on the screen. "You are standing inside a whisper core." "What's a whisper core?" the pilot asked. Jurek stepped closer. "It's not just a base. It's a memory vault, a weapon of knowledge." The general raised his hand in the hologram. A map of the galaxy appeared. Red zones blinked across it. And then the message. Phase 1. Observe. Phase 2. Echo. Phase 3. Silence. Suddenly, the red dots on the map began turning black. "What does that mean?" one crew member asked. Jurek frowned. "It means the next phase has begun." They moved deeper into the base, guided by the drones. The hallway led them to a huge underground chamber. It looked like a library, but instead of books, there were floating memory cores. Each core glowed with strange symbols. One drone flew up to Jurek and allowed him to touch it. The moment his hand made contact, visions filled his mind. Not dreams, memories. He saw Earth burning, but not destroyed. He saw humans leaving in secret ships, vanishing into space. He saw leaders arguing. "They won't stop mocking us. Then we disappear. Let them forget. Let them grow proud. And when they fear again, we return." Jurek gasped and pulled away. "They planned this," he whispered. "Long ago." Meanwhile, far above Earth, the massive human warship moved closer to orbit. It didn't fire any weapons. It didn't speak. It just watched. Across the galaxy, Union fleets were on alert. A few brave ships were sent near Earth. As they approached, their systems died completely. No engines, no comms, no escape. And yet, no shots were fired. Back inside the Whisper Core, Jurek and his team reached the command center. It was quiet. Lights pulsed gently. A chair sat in the middle, empty but warm like someone had just left. A new message played. "You are not our enemy, but we remember what was done. We offered peace. We were mocked. Now we offer silence." Jurek spoke into the console. "We want to learn. We want to understand." For the first time, a response came, not a recording. A live voice. You came with questions. That is why you live. The crew looked at each other stunned. Shirek asked, "Who are you?" The voice replied, "We are the sky's memory. We are the children of Earth. We are what you forgot." Shirek asked, "What do you want?" "We want you to listen." Suddenly, the walls of the command center changed. They showed the Galactic Union, its leaders, its lies. "They erased history," the voice said. "They told you we were weak, that we died, but we were watching." The screen then showed images of alien fleets wiping out weaker species, colonies burned, refugees ignored. "You call yourselves civilized, but you repeat the past, just like before." Shirek lowered his head. "Some of us wanted to do better." The voice replied, "Then prove it." Just then, a bright light flashed across the chamber. Another drone entered, carrying Drin. His eyes were open again. "Drin!" a crew member cried. Drin sat up slowly. "I saw everything. They showed me." "What did you see?" Shirek asked. Drin looked at them, voice shaking. "They're not just planning war. They're planning balance. They want to remind the galaxy that humans were never to be taken lightly." Above Earth, the warship finally sent one signal, a soft, slow pulse that echoed across every system in the Union. It carried no words, just one sound, a heartbeat. The message was clear. Humanity lives, and it remembers everything. The heartbeat signal echoed across the galaxy. It was soft, calm, but it reached every world, every ship, every leader. A sound so simple, yet filled with power. In Galactic Union chambers, fear spread like fire. "What is this signal?" one leader asked. A technician replied, "It's coming from Earth, from a ship bigger than anything we've ever seen." Another leader whispered, "Are the myths true?" There was silence in the room. Then came the second signal. This time, not a heartbeat, a voice. Simple, cold, human. "We do not seek war, but we do not fear it." Back on Earth, inside the Whisper Core, Shirek and his team stood around Drin. He had just returned from unconsciousness, but something was different now. His voice was steady, like he had seen another world. "They showed me Earth's last days," Drin said. "They were surrounded, outnumbered, mocked, but they didn't beg. They'd vanished on their own terms." Shirek nodded. They hid their strength, waiting for the day the galaxy would forget. "And now," Drin said, "they remember." One of the mercenaries walked toward the command screen. "So what now? Do we just wait for them to attack?" Shirek replied, "They're not here to destroy. They're here to remind. But remind who?" Suddenly, the screen changed. It showed images from across the galaxy. Union colonies burning, refugees ignored, weaker species enslaved, children crying in silence. A message appeared below the images. "You called it peace. We called it silence. Now you will hear the truth." Above Earth, the massive human warship, the Aegis Eternal, moved into full view. It opened its panels. Thousands of smaller ships launched from its belly, not with weapons drawn, but with scanners and signal repeaters. They flew across space, spreading Earth's message like a storm. Each carried one code, Echo-class transmission, and one goal: to wake up every hidden Whisper Core. Across the stars, old human bases came online. Some were buried under alien cities. Some were inside gas giants. Others floated inside asteroid belts, silent for centuries. Now they all began to speak. One message repeated again and again: "You laughed, you lied, but we remember." Panic spread in the Galactic Union. "We have to strike first," one leader yelled. "No," said another. "We don't know their full power." Then came the third signal, broadcast directly into the Union's main chamber. A human face appeared, calm, clear, wearing an old Earth uniform. It was General Rhea Miles, the same face Shrek had seen in the Whisper Corps. She said only one thing: "You were warned." Then the signal cut. Inside the base, Shrek stood still thinking. They gave us a chance. Long ago. We ignored it. Drin looked around the chamber. Maybe we can fix it. Maybe if we show them we're willing to listen. But before he could finish, the walls began to shift. A hidden door opened behind the command chair. Beyond it was a glowing sphere, floating, silent. The Whisper Corps' heart. Shrek walked forward. The sphere lit up, scanning his face, his DNA, his thoughts. Then a voice spoke, different from before. This one felt old, heavy, like Earth itself was speaking. "You carry no weapon. You speak no lie. You may ask one question." Jurek stepped closer. He had so many questions, but he knew he had to ask the right one. He took a breath and said, "What will happen now?" The sphere pulsed and answered, "We do not seek revenge, but justice needs memory. They will remember us or they will face us. Peace is offered once. After that comes silence." Then the sphere dimmed. The message was clear. Above Earth, the Aegis Eternal sent its final broadcast. A single phrase: "Phase 3 begins." Across the galaxy, governments panicked. Armies moved. But the humans didn't attack. Not yet. They only watched and waited. Because now, the sky remembered, across the galaxy, the Union was on edge. The massive warship, Aegis Eternal, hovered over Earth like a dark shadow. Hundreds of smaller ships spread across space, silently waiting. The galaxy's most powerful fleet, built in secret, had returned after centuries of silence. The Union's leaders knew that Earth was no longer just a forgotten world. It was a power they could not ignore. In Union command centers, panic spread. "We need to strike," shouted one leader. "We can't let Earth's fleet grow stronger." Another leader, calmer but no less afraid, replied, "We don't know what they can do. They haven't fired a single weapon. But they showed us their ships, their technology." A third leader exclaimed, "They didn't need to fire. They're testing us, preparing for something worse." On Earth, Shrek and his team continued to stand before the Whisper Corps. The glowing sphere had shown them the future. It was a future where humanity remembered its strength and where the galaxy was forced to face its past mistakes. Drin stared at the sphere. "What do we do now?" he asked. Shrek didn't answer right away. His mind raced. "We wait," he said finally. "But for what?" the scientist pressed. Shrek turned to them. "We wait for them to come. And when they do, we show them we've learned." Above Earth, Union ships moved closer. They had to act. Earth's power was too much to ignore. But the Union couldn't make the first move, not without understanding the full picture. "They could destroy us," said one commander. "They could have destroyed us by now," replied another. "But they haven't. And that's what scares me the most." In space, the Aegis Eternal sent out a simple signal. A countdown. It wasn't for battle. It wasn't for war. It was a countdown to the opening of Earth's ancient vaults. Shrek felt the shift. The Aegis Eternal wasn't just a ship. It was a signal to every human base across the galaxy. The ones that had been hidden for so long. The ones the Union had never known about. Shrek's voice was firm. "They've waited long enough. Now we're going to show the galaxy what happens when you forget." Back in Union space, a new message appeared on every screen. A transmission from Earth. "We've waited long enough. Now you will listen. No more words, no threats, just silence." But everyone knew this silence was louder than any weapon, louder than any fleet. Jurek and his team left the Whisper Corps chamber. As they walked, the walls seemed to hum with energy. The base was alive, connected to everything. To every human vault, every hidden memory core, every forgotten ship. Jurek didn't feel the weight of fear anymore. Now it was something else. Something stronger. They were ready. They reached the central control room of the Whisper Corps. The hologram of General Rhea Miles appeared again. This time her face was calm. Peaceful. Earth offers its peace. The message wasn't just for the Union. It was for every species, every race. But if you refuse it, the general continued, we will make sure you never forget who we are. The hologram faded. Jurek's team looked at him, waiting for his orders. The Union, deep in its war councils, was not prepared for this. One general, a veteran of many wars, stood and slammed his fist on the table. We need to fight them now. They're too powerful. If we don't, the galaxy will be at their mercy. Another general, younger but wiser, stood up. No, we don't understand them. And if we fight them, we might just make them our enemy forever. Jurek sat back in his chair, staring at the stars through the observation window. The Aegis Eternal hung in the distance just beyond Earth's atmosphere. The Union was going to react. But they were afraid. Afraid of what humanity could become. He turned to his team. They won't attack. Not yet. Drin raised an eyebrow. What do you mean? They want us to make the first move. They want us to strike. So they can show the galaxy what happens when you push humanity too far. Jurek stood. No, we're not like them. We'll make sure they remember Earth's strength, but we won't be the ones to start this fight. The countdown continued. The Aegis Eternal grew closer to Earth. But instead of firing weapons, it began broadcasting a message across the galaxy. A clear, simple signal. It was sent to every Union ship, every world, every ally. We are the children of Earth. We do not seek war. But we will not be forgotten. And at that moment, the galaxy knew humanity had returned. And this time, they weren't just fighting for survival. They were fighting for something greater. They were fighting for their place in the stars. The countdown had reached its final seconds. The Aegis Eternal loomed over Earth like a silent giant, its warships still in formation. The galaxy held its breath. The Union fleets moved in closer, watching, waiting. But still, no weapons fired. Jurek and his team stood in the command room of the Whisper Corps. The air was thick with tension. They've been waiting, Jurek said quietly. Waiting for the galaxy to make a choice. Drin, his face grim, asked, what choice? Whether we will be remembered or erased. Across the stars, Union leaders made their own choice. We can't wait any longer, said General Corrin, the leader of the Union's fleet. We've given them enough time. They won't leave us in peace. One of the council members spoke cautiously. We don't fully understand their power. They could be using us as bait. They are using us, Corrin snapped. But we don't have the luxury of waiting to find out how deep this goes. He turned to the comm officer. Initiate Phase 1. All ships, prepare for battle. Back on Earth, Jurek stood at the observation window, staring out at the Aegis Eternal. The human warship hadn't fired. It wasn't moving in any aggressive way. It was waiting. And so was Jurek. He knew the truth now. The galaxy wasn't just at risk of war. They were about to face something far more dangerous. A silent war. A battle of strategy, patience, and psychological power. They don't want to fight, Jurek muttered. They want the Union to act. And they're going to use every ship in their fleet to make sure we do, Drin added. The Union was already moving. Hundreds of ships were closing in on Earth's orbit. Massive dreadnoughts, armed with weapons that could destroy entire planets, were now charging into position. But still, the Aegis Eternal did nothing. No shields raised. No weapons aimed. And then the Union fleet opened fire. The first shots weren't aimed at Earth. They were aimed directly at the Aegis Eternal. Massive energy beams cut through space, striking the human warship's shields with brutal force. Jurek watched the flash from the command room. "Here it is," he said softly. The Aegis Eternal didn't retaliate. Instead, the human fleet, led by ships that had been silent for centuries, activated their own energy pulses. They were not destructive weapons. They were messages. Across the galaxy, these pulses spread to every Union fleet, to every hidden human base. The Aegis Eternal transmitted one last message before the battle began. We do not fight for conquest. We fight for remembrance. Remember us, or face silence. In the Union Command Center, General Corrin's face twisted with anger. They're mocking us. They think they can stand against the might of the galaxy. A strategist beside him tried to calm him. General, we don't know their true strength. We've never seen a warship like that before. We'll see it now, Corrin growled. The battle raged on. But the real war was not in the weapons. The real war was in the silence. As the Union ships fired, the humans didn't return fire. They didn't need to. The Aegis Eternal and its fleet simply waited. Chirek stood with his team as the battle unfolded. They're not trying to destroy. They're trying to show the Union the truth, he said, his voice filled with a sense of inevitability. Drin shook his head. The truth? What truth? The truth that humanity is no longer the weak species you laughed at. That the galaxy will remember what they did. Suddenly, the Union fleet halted its attacks. The ships paused in midair, confused. Chirek looked at the screen as something else happened. The Aegis Eternal began transmitting a new message to every Union ship. This time, it wasn't a warning. It was a demand. We will not fire. We will not fight. We ask only that you listen. The Union ships froze. For the first time, the powerful fleet did not know what to do. Chirek stood up. Now they've heard the message. Now they have a choice. Meanwhile, far away, in hidden corners of the galaxy, old human ships began to light up. Long-dormant bases came online, activated by the same signal the Aegis Eternal had sent. Thousands of ships, silent and forgotten for centuries, were now waking up. They moved slowly, but they were moving, and they were listening. In the Union's war room, panic spread once more. They're calling for peace, but it's a trick, General Corrin shouted. But one of the wiser council members, who had spent years studying the humans, finally spoke. No, this isn't a trick. It's a test. A test, Corrin demanded. Yes, a test of whether the galaxy will remember. A test of whether we will stop, listen, and learn. Back at the Whisper Corps, Chirek and his team waited. The warships, the weapons, the fear, they all seemed so far away now. The real battle was inside the hearts of the Union. Would they listen? Would they remember? Or would they continue to ignore the one lesson humanity had to teach? The silent war had begun. And now, the choice was in the hands of the galaxy. The galaxy was frozen in a moment of silence. The Union fleets had halted, their weapons raised but not fired. The Aegis Eternal hovered above Earth, silent and powerful. Humanity had not responded with violence. They had responded with a demand for respect. Chirek stood before the Whisper Corps. His team had gathered around, awaiting the final outcome. The Union ships had stopped their attack, but the silence that followed was thick with tension. What will they do now? Trin asked quietly. Chirek's eyes were focused on the vast expanse of stars outside the station. They'll decide. Will they listen, or will they continue to ignore? In the Union's War Council, the room was filled with voices raised in confusion and anger. What do we do? General Corrin demanded, his hands shaking with frustration. We can't let them walk away from this. But they haven't attacked us, said a calmer voice from the back of the room. They've only asked us to listen. A third leader spoke, his voice filled with doubt. And what if this is a trap? What if they're just waiting for the moment we drop our guard? The room fell into silence as each leader wrestled with the decision. They were powerful, yes, but the humans had shown something the galaxy had never seen before. Patience. A patience that was terrifying in its own way. Back on Earth, Jurek turned to his team. "It's time to make them see," he said, his voice steady. "We're not going to let them forget what humanity is capable of." Drin looked at him, confused. "What do you mean?" Jurek turned to the screen where the Aegis Eternal hung like a dark sentinel in the sky. "The galaxy believes they can control the story, but we're the ones who get to write it now." He pressed a button on the control panel. A message was broadcast to every Union ship, to every world across the stars. On the screen, General Rhea Miles appeared again. This time, her face was no longer calm. There was fire in her eyes. The same fire that had driven humanity to survive against all odds. "This is our final choice," she said, her voice firm. "We will not fight you. We will not destroy you, but you will listen." The screen changed. A map of the galaxy appeared, with one central point highlighted: Earth. We are the forgotten children of Earth. We are the ones who remembered when the stars went cold. You can choose to fight us, but that will be the end of your story. Or, her eyes seemed to pierce through the screen. You can choose to hear us. The transmission cut, and the galaxy was left in stunned silence. The Union's War Council was now divided. One faction of leaders shouted for immediate retaliation, their pride too hurt to accept humanity's demands. But the wiser voices began to speak up. "This is not about who's stronger," said one older general, his voice low but powerful. "It's about whether we can live with the truth. Earth has given us a choice. We can fight, or we can listen." "But they're demanding too much," Corin growled. "They think they can just demand peace after everything we've done to them." Another leader, quieter this time, responded, "Maybe that's the point. Maybe they're asking us to face what we've done to them. To all of us." A long pause filled the room. Jurek watched as the galaxy held its breath. The Union's fleets were still hovering, waiting for their orders. On Earth, the warships waited. And humanity waited too. But this time it was different. Humanity wasn't waiting for a fight. They were waiting for a chance to be heard. The message from General Miles had been clear. There would be no war, no more destruction. The galaxy had one final chance to decide what kind of future they wanted. And then, the decision came. One by one, the Union leaders began to speak. "We will listen," said the first leader. "We will hear what Earth has to say." Others followed, slowly, reluctantly at first, but the message spread. They would choose peace. They would listen. And just like that, the silent war ended, without a single shot fired, without a single life lost. Jurek allowed himself a small, quiet smile. They had done it. The galaxy would no longer ignore humanity. They had made their final choice. Now it was time to shape the future. On Earth, the message had been heard, and across the galaxy, humanity's voice began to echo again. For the first time in centuries, humans were no longer silent. Their place in the stars had been reclaimed. But this was not the end. It was only the beginning. "We are Earth's children," the message continued to echo. "We will not be forgotten, and we will never be silenced again."